Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, TeamOxygenAddict.com.
Team Oxygen Addict is triathlon coaching. It offers training plans and a supportive community of other athletes racing the same races.
Fantastic. Raceforce.co.uk.
They take your bike, Rob, to lots of events across Europe. If you're travelling, they'll get your bike there safely and they'll have mechanics there to help you out and help you do course recce's, and they go to loads of races.
And triathlonbox.co.uk.
So you can carry all your stuff to a race in a cleverly designed box that nicely bounces on your bike. And check them out.
Underrated having a box that balances, mate. How are you doing today? I'm joined by the lovely, wonderful Helen Murray.
Rob, I'm rocking.
The winningest Helen Murray, it has to be said, Hells.
Oh.
Come on, tell the audience. You are a winner. Well done, mate. Seriously, I'm very proud of you. That was a very, very good run yesterday at the Highley 10K.
Thank you. So yeah, the local 10K, I appeared to cross the line as the first female.
You didn't just appear to, you actually did.
Well, I did, yeah. I wasn't sick at the end.
I was a bit disappointed you weren't sick at the end. I did feel as though you'd left a rather human amount of effort on the finish line. I watched you cross the line from a distance and thought, crikey, Helen's not green. That's not like her.
I was really trying to chase someone down in that last sort of 200 meters. But yeah, it's really weird because I was 30 seconds slower than last year when I came second, and I didn't go under 40 minutes. And there's a little part of me that feels it's almost like I shouldn't have won it.
Bit anticlimactic, is it, in a way?
Yeah, and that seems really, really bad. And obviously I'm delighted to win a 10K. You know, the first time I did it, I think I came fourth, and then last year I was second. But
you can only beat the people who are there, Hells.
I know, but it just sort of, I was thinking.
Was it like you passed that woman and you knew you'd gone into the lead?
Yeah.
Did you know you were leading at that point? Well, there you go. That's racing. You can't always. I think it's harder to do a fast time when you know you're in the lead, because mentally you're in a different place. It takes a pretty special day for the confluence of leading and having that mindset to push yourself as hard as possible. I reckon if that woman had been an extra 300 or 400 yards up the road, maybe you really would have pushed as hard as you could to catch you all the way to the line.
Yeah, probably.
That would have pulled you under the magic 40 minutes and you'd have felt double joy.
Yeah, probably. Because I sound like really annoyed, and obviously I'm not. I'm chuffed, really chuffed. But yeah.
Is that your first win? Is that your first proper win of her?
Well, do we count? No, Winkle Trout Run last year. I was delighted with that one. And you
fantastically titled Winkle Trout Run.
The Winkle Trout Run is so hard.
Yeah.
And the year before, I think I'd come fifth or sixth, and then I won by like a minute or a minute and a half. And that was almost like, oh my God, I smashed it.
Maybe it's become an old hat to you.
No.
Now you become a regular winner.
No.
Maybe it's now.
No.
Good. Let that all settle in before Ironman UK, that expectation of winning. That's what we like.
You were on the start line too, though, Rob.
I was on the start line,
and the finish line. You made it.
I made it to the finish line with 2 legs intact,
yes.
Which made me a very happy man.
And an Achilles.
Yeah, it was all right, actually. Did a lot of warming up and it felt okay and didn't hurt during the race. There was a couple of little twinges, but I kind of thought, right, come on, hold it together, boy. Oh. So I managed to scrape myself over the line as third over 40, which I was quite.
That's great.
I was quite happy with, actually. Yeah, It reminded me, Hells, I actually worked out afterwards, I've not raced a 10K in 10 years. Outside of in a triathlon, I've not done a straight 10K in as long as that, and I remembered why at about the 5K marker.
Yes, because they're not that nice.
It's a long way to run hard, isn't it, 10K?
Yes. I got to 5K, and I'm sure I looked at there was a little marker, and I really thought in my head, oh, that's going to be the 6K mark. And I was like, oh, damn, that is only 5K. I've got another halfway to go. I looked at my watch at that point, 19:44, so I was doing all right.
You were motoring. I've got a feeling that course was downhill for the first half.
I think it is.
I think the first half of the course is faster than the second half.
Then it goes up.
Yeah, there's a lot of draggy up hills, and it's nothing like big enough to feel like a hill, but then
takes it out
just constantly, you're chasing stuff all the time, aren't you? And you can't get into a rhythm.
No.
I couldn't.
No, there's like two long stretches where you're thinking, right, I'm going to get those people ahead of me.
Yeah,
But oh god, no. Then there's
you
this.
can see for like a straight half mile in a
Yeah,
straight line, can't
yeah,
you? You can see the whole race in front of you.
yeah. And then there are these. The last bit just seems to go on forever. It's on quite a long main road, and you're just waiting for a left-hand turn, and then you know you're into the finish straight. Seriously, that bit. That was not. There's a sign saying 400 meters. It really wasn't. That
No,
was not one lap of a track.
the 400 meters thing was too far out, and the 200 meters to go was too close in.
Yes.
There was about
God.
400 meters between the two of them, I thought.
Oh, anyway, we made it, and it was really good, and it was a good atmosphere. And let's tell the listeners, what time did the winning male do? Because that was insane.
What was it, like 32:50? Was it?
Yeah, 32 minutes or something.
It was only a couple of seconds outside the course record.
It was really. I was thinking, oh my.
Yeah, he was off and away and clear within 50 meters. He had 10 meters on the whole field, and I looked at Rushy, who was on my shoulder at this point, which gives you an idea of how well I paced this race. That Rushy was on my shoulder and I was in second place after the first 50 yards.
Oh dear.
I looked at him and he kind of raised his eyebrows as if to say, "Well, this guy's either very good or he's going to blow up horribly," and he was very good.
Yeah. So he finished in 32 on his chip time. 32:45. It was Mark offered.
Yeah, good run in that. I was impressed with him.
Really, really well
was,
done.
Yeah.
Now, Rob,
fast run.
at this point, I'm thinking it might be a good idea to just mention our age group athlete of the week that we want to introduce, because quite frankly, mine this week would go to Mr. Mark Offord. So,
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, what we want, lovely listeners, is for you to send us an email to nominate your age group athlete of the week. Now, we need the email by a Sunday evening because we usually record the show on a Monday. So we need it by Sunday evening. And Rob, what do we want to know? Basically, why they should be winning age group athlete of the week.
Yeah, nominate you or your friend. I suppose nominating yourself's a little bit cheesy, isn't it, really? So get someone else to nominate you if you're desperate to be this. But nominate your friend if they've had a good race this weekend. And we're not necessarily looking for people who win stuff, but we're looking for people who have really, really grafted and worked hard, and they think they've got a story to tell and they've done well. It can be in a race or a triathlon or a time trial or anything you like, really. But we want to get more people, more listeners from the show engaged in the show and telling us their stories, because it can't all be about the pros and the age group winners. So let's get people who are friendly. Tell us about your friends. We want to know, don't we, Hells?
We absolutely do. And if you could send a photo of them as well, that would be great, because then we can put it up on on social media and things. So Rob, the email address for this is going to be coachrobwilby@oxygenaddict.com.
Yeah, send that over and we will read out your story. So try and keep it nice and brief for us. Give us a paragraph about them, what they've done or where they've come from and how they've improved, and we'll get it read out on air. That'll be awesome.
Yep, and that'll be the age group athlete of the week. Rob,
cool stuff.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Shall we do some race news and previews with raceforce.co.uk?
Yes, race news and previews with raceforce.co.uk. Hells, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, shall we?
Yeah. Absolutely. So raceforce.co.uk, listeners to the Cover Try receive 10% off all race tours. And if you're thinking about racing abroad, then just get in touch with Raceforce, raceforce.co.uk. You can get 10% off all race tours, bike transport services, excluding the bike bus standard service. And also you can connect with the Raceforce team at a UK event. They're going to have race hosts and race ambassadors who'll be racing at the Extra Mile Series, Always Aim High, and at the F2 event, so the Poseidon and the Rubicon.
Cool stuff. I like that. I like their big silver bus. If I was sending my bike abroad, I'd be happy with it going in that, with all that racking in the back and looking all safe and comfortable. Much more so than when I looked out the window when we were flying back from Fuerteventura and watched the bike handlers frankly throwing the bikes to each other to get them into the plane.
Well,
there was a bunch of us stood by the window and it was just like, ooh, Oh,
Yeah, it's not good.
oh, I hope that's padded.
Yeah, and coming up in a few minutes' time, we will actually hear from Joe Skipper about his bike and taking it out to New Zealand. So listen out for that. We've got Joe Skipper on to talk about that. So yeah, if you want your bike to get there safely, then check out racehorse.co.uk. Racehorse.co.uk.
Joe should have used Raceforce. There you go. He should have used that and been safe.
Yep.
Don't go to New Zealand yet, but put the idea in Kate's head. Next year, Kate, get yourself out to Taupo in New Zealand. You'd need your own plane, I suppose, wouldn't you, to go abroad? It'd defeat the purpose of having a massive Mercedes Sprinter.
Yeah, you would probably struggle. She'd have to set off now. With those.
All right, so moving forwards onto our previews of this weekend's races. First up, we've got Ironman New Zealand. Traditionally, it was always the first Ironman event of the year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's hard to see past. I'm saying it's hard to see past, but I suppose somebody sometimes gotta take the crown away. Cam Brown has won it the last, 10 times or 11 times he's won it?
It's something, yeah. It's a really, really impressive record. And he's going to be wearing the number 1 bib this year. So, but there's a whole host.
2014 and 2013 he actually got beaten but came back last year. Everyone kind of wrote him off because he's older than me. He's like 43 or 44 I think now, and he came back last year and won it in 8:22, which was only a couple of minutes outside his course record as was at the time of 8:18. So the guy's just an inspiration, man.
He's 43.
Is he really?
Yeah, and he has won
He's
it
still going
11.
8:20 at New Zealand, and it's not a fast course either.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
11 times has he won it now.
11 times, yeah. And he finished in Kona. He finished second in 2001 and 2005. That's quite impressive to be going on for that long, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
But
yeah.
Anyway, some of those are going to be sort of chasing him down include Terenzo Bozzoni, Dylan McNeice. Dylan McNeice did Wanaka, didn't he? Last weekend. So he's doing the dirty double. Dougal Allen is doing the dirty double. You've got Per Bittner, who also doing the dirty double. Cyril Vieno, didn't he finish just ahead of Joe Skipper at
I think you're right.
UK?
Yeah, I think so.
And then you also have racing. Joe Skipper is going to be racing, so he had a DNF at Wanaka last weekend. And as we say, we will be hearing from him shortly with his thoughts ahead of it. And the other person who sort of jumped out at me, Rob, was a guy called Samuel Clark, who did the coast. He's the winner of that famous race in New Zealand called the Coast to Coast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how's he rated?
He's
obviously a fantastic bike runner. I wonder what his swimming's like.
I don't think his swim's too bad. And I think he did Ironman New Zealand last year, or maybe the year before, and he ended up riding, I'm sure he did something like 270k, because he didn't want a DNF and he got sent the wrong way, so he did the extra lap.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, way. And then still did some...
He rode 270k?
Yeah. And then...
So how far out of the thing was he when they sent him the wrong way? That's mental.
He basically went and did another lap.
Fair play to the lad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm rooting for him.
Exactly.
I'm rooting for him right from the go. What was his name again?
Sam Clark.
Sam Clark.
He's a Kiwi.
Go on, Sam. He's our outside chance then.
Yep, definitely.
Good.
Then on the it's a long female list as well. So some of those competing is going to be Meredith Kessler. Hasn't she won?
Got to be the favourite.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Last 3 times it's raced, she's been the winner. Yeah, she went 9:05 here last year, so she's got to be hunting down that sub 9. And like I said before, New Zealand is not a fast course.
No.
It's loose, chip-sealed roads, and there's no free speed there at all. So that is an amazing performance from her.
Yeah. Wow. And then Lucy Gossage is going to be chasing her down, isn't she?
Yeah, I think it'll really suit Lucy's strong biking. I think she's someone who's definitely suited to the rough road surfaces, and that won't faze her at all. So it's going to be down to how far down Lucy is out of the water, I think. Now, looking over at tryrating.com, the expected swim times, Meredith Kessler, they've got her down for a 48.30 and Lucy down for 57.50. So there's 10 clear minutes between their expected swim times. Now, overall, they're reckoning Meredith will, be a 9.06. Lucy will be a 9.17 if it all goes to plan.
Yep.
So if it does play out like that, you're going to have Lucy doing her famous flat-out run, chasing Meredith Kessler down. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, won't it?
It will. And then another few dirty doublers as well. So Laura Siddal, we're going to hear from her thoughts. She's been in Wanaka for the past couple of weeks, obviously raced there last weekend. She's going to be doing Ironman New Zealand this weekend coming. Gina Crawford did that as well, but she DNF'd, didn't she? And Anna Cleaver as well was another one of those who raced at Wanaka.
They've got Carrie Lester, Amanda Stevens, and I also saw Kate Bevel-Aqua on the start line as well. So, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. It could be a really, really close race.
Yeah.
I think Meredith Kessler's a standout swimmer there.
Yeah.
And maybe no one can go with her, but everybody else, we've got some really strong ladies bikers there. And if they can get together, you got Laura, you got Maureen Hoofer, you've got Lucy Gossage, Gina Crawford. If they can get together on the bike,
chase her down
and chase her down as a sort of legal group, then it could be interesting on the run.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So that is Ironman New Zealand, which is this weekend.
And also this weekend, we have got, in fact, before we talk about the next one, let's play our little clip, shall we? We've got audio clips have come through from Joe Skipper and from Laura Siddal following their races in Wanaka. So let's have a little listen to what Laura and Joe have had to say for themselves.
Hi, it's Laura Siddal. I'm currently on my last day here in beautiful Wanaka. I've spent the last week recovering and training and prepping for Ironman New Zealand, having raced Challenge Wanaka last Saturday. Wanaka really is a stunning place. I love it here, and you should definitely add Challenge Wanaka to your race list. I head up to Taupo tomorrow on Monday and excited about Ironman New Zealand next week and seeing what happens. Taupo is also a fantastic place, and the field for this year's race is really world class, so it's going to be an awesome day. Hopefully one or all of the Brits that are racing there can be up near the top of the field as the race ends on Saturday. Thanks for all the support from Cup of Tri. Hope to see you guys out here in Wanaka or Taupo soon. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Cup of Tri. It's Joe Skipper here in New Zealand. Been here since the 13th of February, and it hasn't exactly gone to plan. Leading into Wanaka, I had an absolute nightmare, which started off in Manchester, taking my bike out where I was going to get charged a ridiculous amount of excess, £4,500 they wanted in total for the return trip, which is about twice as much as what my road bike was worth. So I had to get Boardman to send me one out, which they did, which was fantastic. Then leading into the race, I had a lot of problems with the headset. First of all, it was damaged by the baggage handlers, and I took it back and forth the whole week to the bike shop, where we thought we'd got it all sorted leading into the race, but unfortunately 50 kilometres into the bike, my headset came completely loose, and I was having to steer at a right angle just to keep the wheels going forward. The headset was lifting up. It was just an absolute nightmare. A guy who lived pretty local told me to carry on. He'd drive home, get some Allen keys and meet me out on the course to try and fix it, which he did, but unfortunately he didn't have all the Allen keys which we needed, so I wasn't able to resolve the problem. I carried on anyway. It kind of got worse, which made it pretty much impossible to ride at any pace. And then after about 90 kilometres I found someone else with some Allen keys. I managed to sort the problem out, but by that point I was half an hour down and was behind the lead in the girls race, so I pulled out. It was massively gutting experience, really upset, as I was hoping for a good race, and I felt good and was confident of it. But anyway, looking ahead and thinking of the positives, I feel great for the race this weekend, and I can't wait to get stuck in. Training's been going fantastic. I've got the bike all sorted. I'm sure of that. It feels really good from what I did the other day. So yeah, looking for a good result on the 5th of March. If you're following me I want to thank you now for all the support. Thanks for everyone who sent me the messages as well after Wanaka. I really appreciate it. Been staying off social media a bit because I haven't had the internet, and I wanted a break and just to really focus 100% on the race. Looking ahead to Saturday and a good race. Thanks. Yeah, as well as all the other problems with what happened with the race, I bloody managed to crash the car into a lamppost out in Wanaka as well, and my GoPro broke and the airport wouldn't take it back. It's all been fun and games out here. Bright side is I did manage to run up a mountain the day after the race, which was fantastic.
Pretty cool that. I'm liking getting through the little audio clips from people.
It's good, isn't it? So again, it's Joe had such a nightmare, didn't he?
That's just awful.
And it didn't stop with the bike.
Fall apart on you.
Oh,
I know, it's bad enough. Like your bike's starting and thinking you've got it fixed, but then it falling apart during the race, and it's just a disaster, isn't it?
I know, but he said he's feeling good, and Laura's obviously in a good place too. So best of luck to both of them at Ironman New Zealand this weekend.
Yeah, good. You go for it, guys. I'm really looking forward to it. They usually got good coverage online as well. We'll be able to watch some of this, Hells, and it because of the time difference, I think you get to watch it. It's on Saturday, isn't it? But I think because of the time difference, it ends up being during our afternoon on Saturday.
Oh, yes.
I could be wrong about this.
I think
I
it'll...
seem to remember watching Wanaka in the afternoon at home. It's about a 12-hour difference, isn't it?
Yeah. So that will be... Yeah, I can't do them. I'm just being a bit... I'm having a bit of a sick moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be able to follow a little bit of it.
I think so.
Yes, definitely.
Don't take our timings for it. Check the timings yourself if you're listening, guys. I've got a feeling that it'll be like late afternoon over here in the UK when it's early morning over there. But it could be on Friday or it could be on Sunday. I'm not sure.
Right. New Zealand's what, like 13 hours ahead?
Okay.
And the race is Saturday, isn't it? Saturday, New Zealand time.
Yeah.
Yep. Therefore, Friday night, we should be able to start following it.
Okay, there we go. We got it
Don't
straight
trust
from
us.
Helen.
No, don't trust us.
I'm pretty sure it'll be Saturday afternoon. I think it's the other way around timing wise. Never mind.
Oh God. Okay. Well, whatever. People can correct us.
Yeah.
And Rob, I was just thinking, obviously again, we heard from Joe and Laura there. So easy to send us a little audio message. So if you do want to send us an audio message, you can just record something on your phone and email it across to us.
Or an even easier way is to use the little app thing we've got on our webpage, auctionaddict.com/podcast. There's literally a little green box you click and it will record straight from your laptop and email it directly to me. So if you want to send something in like that, use it's called SpeakPipe, the app I've got embedded in there, Hells.
That's 90 seconds, isn't it?
It is 90 seconds of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So give it a go. Have a go at that.
Cool stuff. Next race up, we've got the Abu Dhabi ITU race and age group races this weekend happening, and a little bit of British interest going on over here. In the ladies' race, we're seeing the return to racing of Helen Jenkins.
We are, because Helen Jenkins, and she's not yet guaranteed a place in Rio. Obviously former world champion. She competed at London 2012, didn't she, where she finished 5th?
She was 5th, yeah. Was she a 4th? 5th?
She was injured though, wasn't she?
Yeah, she'd been horribly injured in the lead up to it, and she was right there with the main pack, wasn't she, in the run?
Yeah, and Jodie Stimpson as well is going to be competing in Abu Dhabi, and essentially it's a really important race. Quite a lot of these ITU athletes, as they try to get places on their Olympic team. So for GB women at the moment, Non Stanford and Vicky Holland have absolutely booked their backsides on the plane to Rio, but the third spot hasn't yet been decided. So it's a really important race for Jodie Stimpson and for Helen Jenkins.
It'll be interesting to see. Over in the men's race, who've we got racing over there, Hels?
We have for GB Tom Bishop and Adam Bowden. So again, that third spot on the men's GB team for Rio has not yet been decided or confirmed. I know that there has been talk of Tom Bishop could be the favoured one to go along with the Brownlees. But again, it'll be interesting what selectors decide.
I'm interested to watch this, whether they choose a third athlete that's going to race for themselves, or whether they choose a third athlete that's going to be there to race for the Brownlees and be in that kind of supporters role.
I reckon they're going to go with the supporters role.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe wrong, but they did it in London. Why would they not do it again, basically?
Yeah.
So, that is Abu Dhabi, elite men, elite women, this March the 4th and 5th.
Is Phil Graves still wanting to line up for that third slot? You heard anything from him recently?
I haven't heard anything. I did see he won a TT at the weekend.
Really? TT in February?
A 10-mile TT. He had gloves on. It looked blinking cold.
There you go. It looks like he's getting himself in shape then.
Yeah, but
could be interesting.
Could be. No, I reckon. I think it could go to Tom Bishop. I might be wrong. Feel free, prove me wrong.
He's got the pedigree for sure, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It'd be good to see him at the Olympics, I think.
It'd be really, really good.
But it'd be good to see Phil Graves at the Olympics as well.
Watch this space.
Big fan of him.
Watch this space, Rob, basically, I think. Shall we move on to our interview of the week?
Yeah, interview of the week this week is with the fantastic Hywel Davies. It's brought to you by teamoxygenaddict.com. You can find out more at team.oxygenaddict.com. We are building a community of athletes being coached by me, mainly for 70.3 and Ironman distance races at the moment, and we're going to expand it later in the year for sprint and Olympic as well. So if you're interested in finding out more about cost-effective coaching and a fantastic sort of community atmosphere within our Facebook group, where it's really cool, Hells, actually. I wish you were in there because you'd be good inside that little community. People like supporting each other in the training, and it's a really nice addition to the sort of people who are just being coached. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would be interesting to sort of be a fly on the wall in there.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
It's
good. So if you're interested in finding out more, check it out, team.oxygenaddict.com. As I was saying, we've got an interview this week with Hywel Davies. You'll remember we had him on a couple of months ago. He's had his first race as a pro over at Israman, and so we caught up with him to find out how his journey is going. Hi, Hywel. Thanks for coming back on the show and rejoining us, mate. It's really good to have you back on, because I think the last time we spoke, we were in the middle of, was it winter time? It was maybe 6 months ago or so, wasn't it? We had you on the first time.
Yeah, I remember being out in the cold and dark, and I think I'd just taken the head torch off, so it was around about that time.
Probably the middle of August then. So we had you on last time. Obviously, your story is you've gone to being a full-time athlete. You've obviously been a very successful athlete and triathlete across the years, and have had numerous great results and podiums and trip out to Kona, and made the decision to basically step up and race pro this year, having left your teaching career during the summer. So I was dead excited when we watched the results of Israman a couple of weeks ago, and we knew that was going to be your first race on the pro card. And lo and behold, you managed to get on the podium with a third place. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it was interesting. And I think the main thing for me is that it was validation to say, a few years ago I was there or thereabouts. I could consistently get sub 9, and on a good day I could hold it with the lower order of the pros, and at least mix it up when it came to the bike and run. But this race was all about 5 years out from racing, can I still get back, and am I still the same athlete? And the results of it were just pretty much mind-blowing as to what difference has happened in the last 5 years. Just changing the way you train, changing nutrition, changing the way the body works. So yeah, I was very probably surprised more than anything with the results rather than expected.
Yeah. So let's have a look at this. You obviously had a sort of bit of break from racing triathlon, and then you've decided, you know what, I'm going to go back and have a crack at this. And you've talked a little bit about the changes that you've made now. I've followed you over the years through your blog and through Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of nonsense. And you obviously, even during the time you haven't thought of yourself as a triathlete or you've not been racing Ironman for a while, you've still kept yourself in great shape. You've still done loads of rowing, you've still done loads of biking, you've still done loads of running and had a couple of really good cracks at the London Marathon. But they've all kind of been in discrete packets of training where, you've done loads of running building up for this event and then loads of rowing during the winter and things like this. So we talked last time, didn't we, about how general fitness from that cardiovascular work carries over into different events and kind of bleeds into the different sports. Your result from Israman certainly seems to validate the idea that as long as you stay fit in some kind of cardiovascular sport, you're going to maintain that ability to perform, perhaps even improve that ability to perform in triathlon and iron distance racing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the big changes that marathon running really does for you is you learn to just spend a lot of time doing slow stuff. And in the past, I was always a 25, 50 mile bike ride and get it done out the way, do 2 hours, hard as you can, come back for breakfast, and then that's the training done. And yeah, I do the long century rides and things, but for this event, I was really doing it off a base of winter running. And I've been swimming a lot more, but I knew that the run would be interesting in a way, and think, well, I can run at that pace very slow all day, and doesn't matter what the bike does to me. But what I was really quite anxious about was whether I'd just blow up after about 30, 40 miles on the bike, which was my longest training ride. And yeah, you can go in the garage and spend a few hours on the turbo. You can go out in the rain and wind and do your hard rides, but this event was very, very challenging in a different way, because it's as hilly as any alpine mountain stage I've ever done out in France, and this took almost 6 hours of cycling, and that's just something I wasn't conditioned for at all. So I really was expecting to get to about the 3 hour mark on the bike and then be in a world of trouble, and then just get myself to the run and hopefully then pick up some places back. But the way it turned out is the bike was absolutely fine, and the pace relatively consistent, steady all the way through. My only limiting factor was the position, just holding that length of time on tri-bars, and then because you need to constantly look up where you're going on these roads, and it was windy, so you always had to be aero, so the neck and shoulders were starting to give in, and the saddle wasn't the most comfortable, and that started to give me a few issues. So I toughed it out just by climbing out the saddle, doing the longer sections of the climbs there, just grinding my way up, and then sitting freewheel down, and that seemed to work well. And to be honest, I didn't really lose that much time. I expected to be around about 15, 20 minutes behind the top guys, but I managed to keep it down to about 5. So I was in the ballpark, and up to halfway, I had a chance of taking the lead on the race, but just tried to keep a lid on it, expecting to just slow up a bit. But as I said, the nutrition and fitness were not the limits here. It was just a bit more time sat in that position, and
It is something that I think gets overlooked a little bit by everyone, from first timers all the way through age groupers to pros. There's the element of fitness for an Ironman bike leg, which is, being able to just push out the power for 4.5 to 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever the bike leg's going to take. But there's also that extra element of conditioning around, especially if you're on the kind of bike course where you're in the aero position a lot. That neck and shoulder fitness, the ability of just to be able to kind of look down at your front wheel and look up the road for 6 hours, it's quite uncomfortable in itself, and that's something that needs training, isn't it?
It is exactly. And the first part of my body that started cramping was triceps, and that was just by being out of the saddle holding the handlebars, because there's a lot of weight on there, and you're effectively doing lots and lots of mini press-ups as you're climbing, and that was the first thing that I felt going. I thought, well, that's down to lack of conditioning on the bike. But also don't forget you need that in the swim. So no matter how much pool swimming you do, you always get that break every 15, 20 seconds or so. But and I found that as well, because you're going into a race with no open water conditioning at all. So you're going overseas to do a January race. Even the swim, you're starting to feel being in that prone position for 50 odd minutes, your back starts to cramp up a little bit and your neck's a bit sore. So yeah, the position is crucial really, and that's my big takeaway point there is just be prepared for that next time.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit to the start of the race. Obviously, in the past, your swimming has been a little bit more of an Achilles heel in your race than the bike and the run. And obviously, we know you've worked hard at it and you've improved. But I was blown away by how close to the front group you got out of the water, mate. Was it a surprise to you, or did it validate what had happened in training? Or, in fact, how far down were you out of the water?
Well,
Wasn't much at all, was it?
No, there's a few things to pick up here. I mean, this was not the stellar pro field that you'd get in an Ironman race, but these guys I've raced them before, and they've often been 10 minutes ahead of me in a swim. And you look at previous results, and I was just trying to look at how much I could lose on the swim, how much I could lose on the bike, and think about running a sub-3 marathon, and think, well, with that I could probably get back into contention. But yeah, the swim, because it was a 2-lap affair, you came out after 1 lap and you had a name check, and the guy who went on to win the race and last year's winner was just 10 seconds ahead of me coming out the first lap. And I know he's not a great renowned swimmer, but also Peter Vibrusek as well, who when I've raced, he's a consistent low 50-minute swimmer.
Yeah.
And I was slightly ahead of him, so it just really validated that, yeah, the swimming has worked. I was having a good swim, I was comfortable, I got myself in a decent group. And to get out the water then in that contention, so within the top 5 of the race, and also Sergio Marquez was in the race as well, and he was only a minute ahead, and he's swum close to 50 minutes, and again, it was really good validation to say, yeah, that's a big step up.
It's a real good pat on your back, isn't it? And you've got to come with a lot of confidence and think, to get out of the water. I remember Sergio's been out in the front pack at Ironman France on the heels of Van Leerd. So he's a decent swimmer, man. So your swimming's really come on. You've got to give yourself a bit of a pat on the back for that, surely.
Consistency. That's all it is. It's consistency. It's getting in the pool every day and making the sessions count. And I think.
How much swimming have you done then in training? What would your standard week of training look like for swimming at the moment, or over the last few months? So?
The average is around about 15-20k a week. So it's about 3 to 4k a day, and a lot of that is just mixed interval work and a little bit of sprint work. But it's traditional swim sets, but it's all done more or less on my own, not part of a club or anything, but it's just putting the volume in.
Just get in and swim for an hour every day, 5 or 6 days a week.
Pretty much, yeah. And all the little tweaks you can do, and whatever you're coaching yourself, you think, yeah, there's something to that. If they're making that mistake, perhaps I'm making it. And getting a camera in the water on your own swim is invaluable to keep checking up on that. But as I said earlier, there's no substitute for open water swimming, and I think getting out there a few days early to just go out and swim in the water was really helpful. And any issues that are normally there with an Ironman race weren't there, so there wasn't a huge field. There wasn't a problem with sighting. The water wasn't cold. It was crystal clear. It was flat sea. So it was a really good swim condition for me. And I needed that in a way to say, let's take all the other variables out and just put it down purely to, am I swimming faster? And the answer was yes. So it was really pleasing for me to come out that high up in the field, not have to just keep chasing all the time.
Yeah, great stuff. And so then you're out onto the bike in the low 50s. Obviously, the bike course there you've alluded to already, but for a guy like you to be riding 6 hours on the bike, man, how hilly is that bike course? How much height gain is on it?
Well, straight off the start, you're into a headwind, and it was cold, and this was weird, really weird. And you look on the weather for the last few weeks out in Alat, and it's been 28-30 degrees, but the air temperature when we started the bike was in the low single figures, about 3 or 4 degrees.
Oh, crikey.
So you're soaking wet in your tri-suit, you fumble around with a jacket, by which time you've got out the water and run to T1. Your hands are so cold you can't put the helmet on and you can't zip your jacket up. So it was a little
Oh, it
bit
was
of a.
literally as bad as that, was it?
It was, yeah. There was people. If you look at the photos, there's people in full winter cycling gear on with balaclava, overshoes, and long tights. So it was seriously cold. But you
Wow.
get out on the bike, and within 3 miles you start climbing. Then it's just relentless climb, like a proper Alpe d'Huez type climb. Perhaps not as steep, but you're climbing for the first 15k. Up,
Oh, really? So it's proper, seriously up into the mountains and
yeah.
yeah.
You're only climbing that first 15k. You're only climbing. So your average speed, you get to the 10-mile mark, and your average speed is down at 12, 13 mile an hour.
Oh,
So
wow.
you're on the back foot straight away. So whereas you would be trying to average around 23, 24 mile an hour for an Ironman course, you're starting at 13. And then once you're at the summit, that's where T2 was. It just carried on climbing for another mile or so. And then everything was just either descending or climbing on a very wide open mountain road with nothing but mountains and canyons for scenery. There was no crowd. There was nothing. You're not passing through any villages. It's just barren landscape with a road going through it.
It sounds like the old days of training on the eye magic,
Pretty
hey?
much, yeah. So you take the worst
Perfect for
possible
you.
stage in Kona, the most awful bit of the Kona course, and multiply it by 112 miles, and this is what you got. So you were never flat. It was always climbing, always descending, and it was just very windy, very cold, but it was quiet. And
Yeah. And did you say that T2 was up at the top of that big climb, so you don't even get like the 15 kilometers of
no,
downhill
no,
at the
you
end
don't
of the
come back
course?
down. So
Oh, breaks your
you're
heart.
always looking at your average speed, thinking this is pathetic. And by the
Yeah.
end of the bike leg, you get up to about 19 mile an hour, and you're quite happy with that. So that's why it was so slow. There were legs there. There were speeds where you were hitting over 50 mile an hour because the road surface was generally quite good. The descents were steep, and there was no tight cornering apart from the hairpin turn at the end of a lap. But so it was pretty much a ride as hard as you could course. Nothing technical, but just very windy.
Wow. And then you got yourself to the end of the bike leg. Obviously, you're in a bit of discomfort with the shoulder and the arms and all the undercarriage issues going on. I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that. And whereabouts were you in the field at this point, and how was it looking with the time gaps to the people in front?
Well, the race is very similar in how you feel to the Alpe d'Huez triathlon. So anyone who's ever done that will know what it feels like to climb for an hour and then get off the bike when your quads are just completely shot, and then you try running. And that's what this course felt like. It wasn't like a flat Ironman course where you get off and you're straight into your stride. So when I did Austria last year in August, I was straight off the bike. Yes, it was only a half, but straight off the bike, almost running at my normal half marathon pace. And in this event, it was a struggle to get off the bike. And then get to a seat in T2, put your trainers on, and it was just enough to be moving, and it was horrendous. Those first few steps were just like running through treacle. You never felt like you could get going. But within 50 meters, you were over the lip of the hill, and you were running downhill about 8-9%, and it was good in a way to get your legs moving. But then after about 5 minutes of that, you started feeling the effects of running downhill. So
Yeah.
you're then trying to stop yourself running too fast downhill, but then the more you try not to, the harder it gets because it's now starting to hurt, and everything in the legs is hurting. But you roll with it, and you accept the fact that you're going against gravity, and your speed's okay. You look at your watch and think, wow, this is good running. I'm on course for a 2:40 marathon, and then you get to the bottom. And you get to the bottom and it all goes wrong because you've just got nothing left in the legs at all. And that for me was the most surprising thing about how much that takes out of you. That at the end of that level of cycling, that difficulty on the bike, and then running straight downhill. So it didn't get flat until the 14k mark. And then when you've got another, well, effectively 16 miles to go, on flat road with legs that don't work. It was the perfect Ironman shuffle, and everyone was just shuffling. And
Oh, at least they didn't send you back up the hill, eh?
no, that's the bonus. That's the bonus. You'd like to come down it on the bike, and I think running down that hill gained you about 5 minutes coming down, but it lost you 25 minutes then running on the flat. So it was a really slow marathon course, even though it sounds like it'd be really quick.
Yeah, now I know what you
But
mean. You've got smashed quads from all the climbing on the
yeah, I mean
bike.
the
They
half
then get
guys.
eccentrically loaded going down the hill, and then you've got to deal with it at the bottom. What a nightmare.
Yeah, you're right. The half guys were just absolutely bombing it, and they could get away with that because once you got to the bottom, you only had a shuffle 5K to go, so they could just hold on. But the full distance guys, there's lots of people in bits just by trying to shuffle their way through because that hill is something else.
Yeah. And you came off the bike in what position?
I was off the bike I believe I was sixth. I lost a few spaces on the last lap of the bike just because I was struggling with my back and neck, and I sat up. And as soon as the hills started coming thick and fast, I was gaining a bit more ground. So yeah, I started off I think it was about sixth, but then the guys ahead were just a few minutes ahead, and you got a little out and back loop at the 9K mark where you could see where people were. So once I got down to that, I got down into fifth, and then managed to work my way up to fourth by the time we got to the 21K mark. And that's when two of us passed Sergio Marquez, and he then pulled out. So at that point, at 21K, I was up into third. And the gaps then were staying stable. So the leader was about 10 minutes ahead, and I had Peter Verbrusek about 8 minutes ahead. And those gaps were staying until the last 5K when they started coming down. And I just thought, well, this is where I can push the pace a bit. And I tried pushing, and it lasted about 5 seconds. But it was just a case of not slowing down. There was nothing I could do to speed up. It was just don't slow down as much as the other guys. And I was gaining a lot of time on second place, and eventually brought it down to 2 minutes. So another couple of K would have
You'd
suited
have
me,
had him.
but no, it was great. I was just so happy to be up in that position, thinking, well, at one point in the race, I was in with a chance of taking the lead, and that was on the bike where I hadn't worked on. And the only thing I was disappointed with was not being able to validate my running, really, because I was just really quite fatigued from the bike. Because I know I could have run a lot faster, and a sub-3 marathon, which I know I'm more than capable of, could have possibly won the race. But then would that have been a better race for the guy in front? So we never know.
Yeah. Tough ask on a course like
Oh,
that,
it
though,
is,
hey,
yeah.
with smashed quads, yeah. Yeah, sure. So, well, I'll tell you what, man, it's brilliant to hear, like, as you said, the validation of going pro and getting on the podium in your first race. I think you do yourself down by saying, albeit it's not a very big race and it's a small field, but that's a real first great marker down for you, I think, man. And the obvious question now is, it's like, where do you go for the rest of the season? Have you got a season plan lined up with where you want to go and race from now on?
Yeah, there's a few marathons that I'm going to just go back to for the next few weeks. That's in March and April. So I'm looking at a few fast half marathons, and then one of either Manchester or London will be the one I go for, another 2:30 crack. Not decided which one yet. I've entered both, but I'd just rather keep those options open. And then after that, a good block of cycle training, and the first race I'll do is Frankfurt. So I'm on
And that's
Frankfurt.
confirmed, is it?
Yeah,
You're definitely
definitely doing that one. And that'll be just really going for a time in the first instance. And then I'm undecided what next then, because there are lots of races that are now opened up to me in terms of the time available, because every other year I've been restricted by a school summer holiday.
Of course,
so now
yeah.
I'm able to look a little bit wider. So that's the one that's definite, and there will be another Ironman around about September, October time. But I've also got Berlin Marathon later in the year. But there'll definitely be one or two more Ironmen. But I must say, having done a non-branded race in Israel, I think I'd much rather go and do those sorts of events. They were just so well organised and so much fun to do that I'll look a bit wider field and just see where there are different races before they get swallowed up by a big organisation.
Yeah, yeah. Would you have any aims of qualifying as a pro for Kona and going out and racing pro and having that experience?
No, I've done Kona once. It was there to tick off, and I think I went over at possibly the best time to do it while it was still not as big and commercial as it is now. That there's so many different hoops you've got to jump through to go there now, and I don't think I could get the points to do it as a pro, and I wouldn't want to race that often, and B, I'm just not the athlete built to go out there. And I know that seems like it's a bit of a cop out, but my lasting memory from going out there was just the amount of sunburn I got. I don't mind heat, but it was just a combination of swimming without a wetsuit in salty water and being in extreme heat and wind, that the sunburn was far more painful than the event itself. And I don't know, I think
other races for you on
the horizon.
I think
I've done it once, and I don't see any value in wanting to go out and do it again, and not at this age now. So it's an experience on the bucket list done. I think there'll be equally other good experiences out there yet to do.
Yeah, good for you, man. And the other thing, going back to Israman, obviously you're coaching Alice Hector now, and Alice took the win in the half distance race out there. Was she pleased with that?
Yeah, very much so. And it's good to be back winning. And the back end of the season last year, there were a few plans that we were going for, and things didn't work out with races. But I think, again, having that to validate that, yeah, she's improved a lot since last time, and we got a lot of good training data coming through now that says what she really is capable of. So it was just a pleasure to be out there and just see other athletes winning, and it was her idea for me to go out and do it. So I said, well, if you're going to be out there, I don't want to come out and watch, I'll come out and race, but I don't want to do a half. Not going that far to do a half. So, but no, it was really good to see her winning and happy and getting the sort of attention she deserves for winning that race.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll have to have her back on as well, man. She was a great interview. What's she got coming up for the rest of the year?
A lot of mix and match events. We're looking at probably focus on the half distance for the rest of the year, and then look at whether we can step up to get a really good Ironman performance. But at the moment, we're going to concentrate on getting the speed and power first, because the swimming is exceptional, the running is exceptional, and we're just working on getting some bike speed and power. So a lot of different things. So duathlon, some time trial, and a lot of standalone events other than just triathlon. So yeah, it'll be exciting just to see how much progress we can make. Yeah,
I think turn her bike into a weapon, mate, and she'll be a serious podium contender at half and full distance Ironman, won't she?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, man. Well, listen, thanks ever so much for coming on the show and spending the time to talk to us. It's been great to hear that it's been a success for you stepping up and hitting that first podium. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you go out in Frankfurt and giving us a British pro to root for out there. You'll be praying it's not a hot summer out in Germany, so you don't get one of those wetsuit-free swims, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I was out in Germany. I actually went out and ran the marathon course on my way over to Austria. We did a stopover in Frankfurt and found the marathon course. And this was in August, and it was raining, and it was cold and windy, and I didn't know what all the fuss was about.
Let's hope you get a day like that on race day. Hey?
Exactly. Bring on Israel again.
Yeah, you said it, man. All right, Hal, listen, thanks very much for your time, buddy. I hope we can get you back on the show later on in the summer and talk about the results from Frankfurt.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, Rob.
Keep it rolling, man. We'll speak to you again soon.
Okay.
There we go. That's Hywel Hells.
Oh, it sounds like a very, very cool race. It sounds ridiculously hard.
It sounds ridiculously hard, doesn't it?
With T2 up in the mountains.
And that's for it being like 4 degrees centigrade on race day.
Oh.
That's beyond... You rock up thinking it's going to be really warm, and all of a sudden everyone's struggling to get gloves on.
Oh, honestly, that yeah.
It's too cold to be racing 4 degrees, isn't it?
4 degrees is not fun. I mean, I thought yesterday was blooming cold, and I did get down to a vest top, and I was thinking, oh no, am I being a bit too silly here running in a vest top? But no.
And it wasn't 20k up into the mountains either, was it?
Which surely then the temperature did it drop more up in the mountains?
Oh, I would say
Exactly.
so, yeah.
Oh, chilly.
Yeah.
But no, it's impressive, Rob, I think, to say, yep, you know what, I'm going to do this at the age of 40. I'm going to go pro.
Yeah, and back it up with a solid,
Totally.
Decent field there. Take the podium. That's really good. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes over in Germany. It'll be obviously a stacked field over there, but it'll be exactly what he needs to drag him around and really see what he's capable of in terms of going fast.
No, it's really cool. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, Hal. Keep up the good work, Alice, as well.
Yeah, good. Nice to see her racing well and winning as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what else she's doing this season.
I think it was, I can't remember exactly now, thinking back, Hal said it's going to be focused on 70.3s and maybe, I can't remember, but it's going to be focused on 70.3s and try and building some speed.
Brilliant. It'll be interesting. Really, really cool. I love it, honestly. It's really good. Rob, I love hearing from different people.
Yeah, it's nice to get different interviews on, isn't it?
Yeah. So, like, 1 week you have a little bit with Chrissy, another week you hear from, I don't know, Eddie Brocklesby or someone. No, it is really, it's great. And so let us know what you think. You can interact with us, remember, at Cup of Tri on Twitter, and we're on, you can email us. So just keep in touch with us. We love it.
Cool stuff. Right, moving on then. The last thing we've got to do this week is Coach's Couch.
We have now, Rob. This one is brought to us with a Triathlon Box, isn't it?
Yeah, triathlonbox.co.uk. Go and check out. I think they've got a really cool product for carrying your stuff between the car and the transition area. I'm going to be honest here, Hels, I really struggle with this. I remember getting my stuff out of the back of the car for Slate Man and just trying to balance and juggle everything and try and work out how I was actually going to do it. And I was thinking, this is stupid. I'd arrived without really a backpack.
Yeah.
I just had a kind of sports bag with me and was trying to ride with it over my back, trying to ride down to transition with all the stuff in there that I needed and the wetsuit crammed in and like the pointy helmet digging into this sports bag that was swinging around.
Yeah.
And I looked around and there's loads of people having a similar sort of problem. So I think it's a pretty cool solution, really. Balance it on the top tube, push your bike along, everything fits inside.
Bingo.
Job's good. Yeah.
Bingo. I do remember the first time I went to a triathlon and I thought, oh, it's a great idea to put everything in a box. And but my box didn't have a funky little thing to balance it, so
Didn't have the funky cutout.
no. So there we go. The plastic box did not work. Anyway, Rob, this week's Coach's Couch question is from Adrian Ford, and Adrian says, with spring marathons on the horizon, how about top 10 tips for marathon training?
Oh, well, I've got to assume that someone who's doing a marathon, it could be a double-edged question, this one, Hels. It depends. Is someone doing a marathon in the build-up to an Ironman, or are they doing a spring marathon? Because I think the answer for the two of them is quite different.
Okay, well, let's do the spring marathon, not looking at an Ironman. So just a standalone spring marathon. Let's do 5 tips for that. And then,
oh, crikey. Steady on with the 5. I'm not sure how many I've got.
and then we'll have a couple of tips.
We'll talk about training for
if you're doing a spring
using
marathon.
it to a build-up.
Yeah.
Right, so the first thing I think to talk about if you're doing your marathon is if you're just doing it as a marathon rather than as part of preparing for an Ironman, I think the two are quite different because my running friend brought this up for me years ago and he said, it's really funny, you triathletes and Ironmen, you kind of throw a marathon into your training schedule as though it's just like nothing at all. And for a runner, a marathon is like the culmination and build-up of 6 months of focus and thinking about it all the time and really, really worrying about how they're going to do this marathon. And then Ironman triathletes rock up and just kind of throw one in there at 3 weeks' notice. And I thought, actually, you make a really good point. A marathon is a massive, massive undertaking, and I don't think it should be taken lightly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just having done Malaga in December, I kind of entered it, and then gradually, I don't know, halfway through the training, you kind of think, oh, I forgot how hard this is.
Yeah. I think you've got to do a minimum of 16 weeks of focused run training if you want to run a fast marathon and do it as a runner. And by that, I mean, you've got to be running 5 or maybe 6 times a week. That's how a runner is going to prepare for a marathon. And if you want to do a fast marathon, it's pretty rare the person who can mix up 3 runs a week and do the kind of marathon time that they're capable of. Now, I'm not saying you can't run a marathon off 3 runs a week and some triathlon training, of course you can. But if you want to run a fast marathon and you want to run close to what you're capable of, you've got to accept you've got to train the way a marathon runner would do, which is like a minimum of 6 runs a week. And for the guys and girls who want to go faster, possibly you're looking at extra runs and double run days and things like that. So that's my first tip, is going to be know what you're aiming for and basically prepare appropriately. You can't really decide 4 weeks before your marathon that you really, really want to have a crack at a fast time, because the hard work's got to have been done in the 12 weeks before that.
Yep.
Key runs, I think, for training for a marathon, the 2 main ones to think about are you need to get your long run in every week and you need to get a marathon paced run in every week. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, but the key thing is here, separate the 2 things out in your head. Your long run, where you're going to be running for sort of 3 hours, maybe a little bit longer, it does not have to be at, and I recommend it isn't at, anywhere near your goal marathon pace. You should be looking at 30 to 45 seconds a mile slower than you're capable of racing on race day, because the purpose of that long run is not to get you practiced at running fast at marathon pace, certainly not in the initial 12 weeks. So just get out there and do that. And my recommendation is always the 9-1 run walk method, where you're going to walk for a minute and then run for 9 minutes. The reason for that is it's going to save your legs and you're going to bounce back to do more training the next week. In the middle of the week, give yourself a marathon paced run. So I'd advise you start at 4 or 6 miles of running at the pace you want to do on race day, and then build it from there. So either build up by a mile or 2 miles every week and get to the point where a couple of times you're running for 10 or 12 miles at marathon pace with a mile or two's warm up and cool down, and they'll form the backbone of your marathon training.
So Rob, if you're aiming for let's say you're aiming for a 3:45,
yeah,
basically you could just put 3:45 into a race pace calculator and it should come up with your marathon pace, shouldn't it? What you should be.
Yeah. Exactly that. Yeah. And then go out there. And I think a pretty good rule of thumb is, if you've done the mileage, if you've done the long runs, and if you've done an appropriate number of marathon pace runs, if you can put a couple of 10 or 12 mile marathon pace runs together midweek on your own at the pace you want to go at, and it's going to feel blooming hideous, it's worth saying that, deal with that mentally. But if you can do that a couple of times in the run-up, I think you're there or thereabouts for running your goal time. However, you've got to be running that 5 or 6 times a week to back up all the rest of those runs. It's pretty rare the person who can just do a long run, a marathon pace run, and one other run and be in shape to hold it together for a decent fast-paced marathon.
And just from the experience, Rob, I guess I have got the recent experience of doing this.
Sure have, yeah.
Those M pace runs, the marathon pace runs, oh man. I think the first one, as you say, that I would have done would have been about 4 miles. And I remember thinking, oh, this is hard work. How on earth am I going to do this for 26? But gradually they got a bit better. I don't want to say that, but they did. They got a bit better, and you knew, right, this is actually the hardest run of the week. That long run is not hard in comparison to doing the marathon pace run, because it's at a, you are going faster. It's not easy, and you just mentally you're playing a game with your watch, basically.
Yeah, it's hideous. Yeah, there's no question that mentally, if you're trying to do 12-mile M-pace run, it's going to be really hard in training, and it's not going to feel like the first 12 miles are going to feel like on race day. It's going to feel like the last 12 miles are going to feel like on race day. Yeah. And that's where the mental games come into play, where you've got to keep telling yourself the purpose of this is to simulate what the last 6, 8, 10, 12 miles feel like on race day, not the first 6 or 10 or whatever. And yeah, if you can mentally play that game with yourself and get you through those runs on training, then I think you'll put yourself in a good place for race day. Now, I'm going to move on and talk about people who want to use a marathon in the build-up to their Ironman.
Yep.
My advice to you here is don't. Right?
Yep. And now, why is that?
Well, I think you've got one set of really hard preparations in you a year, and if you prepare really hard for a marathon, and you say you do one in early mid-April like Manchester or London, and you're then doing a summer Ironman, you're left with sort of 12, 14, 16 weeks for your Ironman. It's been my experience, most people are completely blown apart by the marathon experience. You don't recover in 2 or 3 days. It's 2 or 3 weeks worth of feeling weird afterwards. And it's exactly the point in your training when you want to be doing the big bike miles and doing a lot of volume in preparation for your Ironman. So I know people often do want to do a marathon in preparation for their Ironman, especially if it's the first one and they want to get the confidence up. But my advice is to go and do it as a catered long run. Don't do it as I'm trying to run a fast time. Do it as I'm going out there to try and run this at my easy pace or slower. You could do it as walk, jog on race day, but you're going to have to put your ego on one side and know the purpose of why you're doing it. I think, again, unless we're talking about the very top age groupers, it's incredibly difficult to do a fast marathon and a good Ironman in the same season.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to ask, actually. If someone has entered it, has entered a marathon, and let's say they're going to be doing, I don't know, Ironman France or Ironman UK later on, it is that key point there. I think you said it, putting that ego aside, because it's really, really difficult, isn't it, to line up on a start line knowing that you aren't going to be doing what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, totally. You've got to be really clear in your head what you want to do. Yeah. You got to have a pacing strategy and know what you're going to do. Because if you don't, you're going to run too fast. But I think a good way to look at it is the Ironman is going to be your biggest challenge of the year and possibly the biggest challenge of your life so far. If you think of it in terms of a runner, would a runner use a hard marathon to prepare for a marathon in 12 weeks' time? No, they absolutely wouldn't, would they?
No.
So my advice to people a lot of times is if they're feeling hyper competitive, well, fine, do this extra run training, but then race a half marathon, and you can get away with racing a half marathon as hard as you like and using all that run fitness and finding out where you're at. But don't try and race a marathon hard in the build up to your Ironman, because you're just going to leave yourself spread too thin for the season.
Excellent. So Rob, really, really good tips there. Adrian, thank you so much for your question. And this is Coach's Couch. So if anyone else has a question for Coach's Couch, again, email us, Coach Rob Wilby at oxygenaddict.com, or you can get in touch via @cupoftry on Twitter.
Cool stuff. And I think we have to wrap it up there for this week, Hells.
I think we do. Rob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And well done on getting back on the start line.
Yeah. Old guy back on the start line. Hey, here's the thing, right? I looked back at my results from 10 years ago. I actually ran faster yesterday than I ran 10 years ago. That was technically, that's a PB 10K for me. Oh, like, since returning to running, that's a PB.
That is brilliant.
Faster at 42 than at 32.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You can't sneeze at that, can you?
No. Well, I'm slower at nearly 33 than nearly 32.
I think we get to a point and you get to reset the clock every season.
Oh, do we? Okay, fine.
I'm definitely at that point. I don't think you are yet, Hells.
Okay.
But for me, I get a blank slate every year, so every race is a PB.
That's a good psychological way of doing it.
Every race is a winner.
Oh, fantastic. Well done. And we will be back next week. Best of luck to Joe Skipper, Laura Siddal and Lucy Gossage, all racing Ironman New Zealand this weekend. And do let us know your age group athlete of the week. Remember that. We want your email by a Sunday evening. Send it through to Coach Rob Wilby at oxygenaddict.com and tell us why you, if you really want to, or your friend should be our age group athlete of the week. And it doesn't have to be a winner.
Awesome stuff. All right, thanks very much for listening, everybody. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. Till next week, have a great racing and training week, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye now.